Hello, fellow commanders. Well, today we're going to look at a totally different game. Well, it's not that much different compared to Elite and Dangerous, but it's Star Citizen. And don't worry, of course I will just also continue playing with Elite Dangerous, but Star Citizen is just some other game that is in the same genre and that might actually be a very, very nice game once it's completed. So I'm now looking into the Avenger, which is a pretty decent ship. It's one of the. It's not a starter ship. I took the Mustang as a starter ship, and I used rack points in order to unlock the Avenger, so that I can test it and fly in it a bit. But it's a very nice ship, and well, I will do also some combat, Vandal Swarm, together with some other players. After this initial scouting of the vessel itself, but I adjusted the weaponry as well on the ship. So in Star Citizen, compared to Elite Dangerous, you have the so-called gimbaled modules, and effectively, unlike as in Elite Dangerous, gimbaled does not mean it can auto-focus and auto-lock on the target. Gimbaled over here means that you have to divert, or let's say guide the mouse or your joystick towards the point where the gun should fire, and that makes it a bit more difficult compared to Elite Dangerous. But so in order to make let's say weapons adjustable and non-fixed, you can give them a gimbaled module, which effectively reduces the size of the weapon by 1, but does allow you to direct via mouse, I must say, which I find honestly to be the simplest way to control this precisely. You can direct by mouse the weapon's firing arc, and thereby hopefully hit enemy ships much more precise and easier. So that's what we're going to look into with Vandal Swarm. This ship is going to be a very interesting start ship, I would say. A bit better than the Mustang in terms of combat capabilities, and also a bit slightly more all-round. But yeah, in many ways officially slightly also a bit more old-fashioned. But that's of course does not hinder us too much for now. So let's have a look at Vandal Swarm, cooperative with other players, and let's see how it goes.
Warning. There are multiple hostiles inbound.
Shields up. Begin scan. Contact.
Now I must start by saying that I really like the sound effects, and of course this is not finished at all at the moment. And here you can slightly see the benefit of having gimbals. So the Avenger starts out with a pretty high caliber nose gun, and of course you can fit other weapons at the wings, which I also showed you very briefly. And well, by using gimbals for all three weapons or weapon points, it becomes much easier to direct fire in the ship. A difference between, for example, Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen is that in Star Citizen, like I said, you do not have a locking function for weapons. You do for missiles, but not for like these pulse lasers or kinetic weapons. You cannot do that. So you have to direct the angle of fire yourself, and that takes some practice. And also the style of flying is slightly different. Standard, but you can of course fine-tune that yourself. Roll is not part of the traditional X-axis of your joystick, but instead you have actually the sideways movement by the thrusters that is allowed or controlled by the X-axis of the joystick. And it does work. I must admit, it does work actually quite fine. Once you get a bit, the hang of the combat system. Of course, in Star Citizen you can adjust your shields as well in terms of strength. Now, for the Avenger currently, this plane, or let's say the user interface, is currently a bit bugged. Normally you should be able to see also an interface indicating your weapons and your shields, but also, for example, the status of your power output, and that is something we don't see currently in the user interface of the helmet of the pilot. And this is due to a bug in the user interface, and hopefully they will resolve that again in the future. But for the meantime, I think we can just get a bit of feeling of this ship as it is now in the current beta version, or alpha. Sorry, there is no beta yet. But yeah, what do I think about Star Citizen? I think it's definitely a very interesting game. It feels a bit more polished than, well, in some aspects, of course, right? It's definitely not a finished product. But in a way, so isn't Elite Dangerous either. And of course, you can do a lot more in Elite Dangerous right now, which is how it should be with a released game. But I do believe that the moment that Star Citizen might actually become a full-fledged release title, Elite Dangerous might actually have a huge problem on their hands in terms of competition. It already has, but it might become a lot worse then. Because Star Citizen does look astonishing, and I must say it looks better than Elite Dangerous in a lot of respects. And let's say currently I'm playing this on a very, well, let's say old school system. The video card that I have currently is just a GTX 760. GeForce GTX 760. So it's a pretty old system, but it does run. I did some optimization here and there of one YouTuber called Board Gamer. He actually has a very nice overview in how to optimize your settings for Star Citizen, and I used those and I tried to implement as many as I could, and it helped. It really helped me. But yeah, in the future I might actually start building a new PC with a much better video card than I currently have in this one. And yeah, and then of course I will be able to run this game better. Though I must say currently the game is also not optimized that well yet, so it might actually be that in future the game will perform much better even with older video cards. Now, what do I think about the combat itself? Like I said, it's very fast-paced, at least in this Vandal Swarm setting, which is just like you fight against NPCs either alone or together with other players, and try to, of course, beat as many waves as you can, possibly. And the combat feels actually very nice. All the obstacles though in this map are sometimes a bit annoying because you can sometimes drift against against the debris, which damages your ship a lot. Also, it seems that indeed debris which hits your ship is not really kept in check by shields as much as I at least noticed. So that is a bit of a contrast to Elite, where shields actually also protect you from colliding against other objects. But in general it feels actually very nice. Yeah, in general I think this game is going to be terrific once it's fully, let's say, it's a bit more richer in terms of what you can do. Currently I would not as of yet recommend people to buy it from a, well, let's say, satisfactory gameplay point of view. But if you of course want to get a feeling of this game already and pledge for this game, because you know pretty certain that you're going to enjoy playing the final product and within this genre, then I really recommend it. It's a decent buy, and it's also together with Squadron 42, which is going to be the single player experience of the game, which might be released, I guess, somewhere either at the end of this year or possibly in the earlier part of next year. At least that's what we hope currently. That's going to be also a tremendously nice game from a single player perspective. So if you back the game and you buy one of these packages that has a starter ship together with Squadron 42, as I did, and I took the Mustang as my starter ship, then you can actually also enjoy Squadron 42 as long as you buy it in a bundle. And it's not that expensive either. You're talking about a bit more than a AAA game title at the moment. But it's very comparable to that. And let's be honest, this is likely also going to be really a AAA game. So at least in terms of how it looks, in terms of how it's going to play out, I guess it will be. But these Vandal Swarm pilots, they're not that great at the moment, and they fly in pretty weak vessels though. Usually I incur most of the damage due to colliding against objects, if I'm not super careful. And you're also very much dependent upon other players in order to survive as many waves as possible. So sometimes you have players that just get out of the match, and then you end up with maybe one colleague that helps you along, and usually that's a bit too little. So here you can see also some missiles fired by another player following that target, and you can also lock, as I'm currently doing, you can also lock some missiles yourself and try to fire that. But in general, the Avenger, about that ship itself, it flies very nice. It is slightly less maneuverable compared to the Mustang. Mustang is, in terms of maneuvering, speed and ease, it's a better ship. It's also, of course, a little bit smaller and a little bit more fragile than this ship. In terms of weaponry, I think that the Avenger is way better. But again, it loses that bit of maneuverability, which can also hurt you if you are fighting against the wrong targets. So that's something to consider. But from let's say as a natural upgrade from the Mustang, I think it's a pretty decent and safe buy. It's an all-rounder. Well, it's not completely all-round, but it can do multiple tasks. You also have multiple variants, like the Titan, which is more of a light cargo ship. But you also have the more combat-orientated or bounty hunter-orientated variants, which you can buy or pledge. So there are plenty of choices there, and the upgrade from a Mustang to a Avenger is not that super expensive. And of course, don't forget, ultimately in the full game, you don't have to buy other ships with real-world currency. You can just earn the ships and the upgrades over there. But if you would like to pledge and let's say go a little bit more, do a little bit more in terms of spending money on this game, I think it's a pretty safe upgrade that is not too expensive. You're talking about, I think, $20 or euros or so in order to upgrade from the Mustang, from the starter packages. That would be the Alpha version then, the Alpha Mustang. But so in general I like the game. For now I'm mostly going to wait until new modules and new gameplay mechanisms are introduced into the game. Combat is nice, but of course it's not one of the... also in Elite Dangerous I mostly trade around and try to do some missions. So I wait for that. But anyway, Commanders, I hope you enjoyed this, and hopefully see you around in in either one of these games. And stay safe and keep flying, Commanders.